Good morning, good afternoon, and evening, baseball fans. Welcome back to the Barstool Baseball Show. It is Friday. I am Carl, and I am joined by Chris Klemmer. You are in New Hampshire. We're going to do some trade deadline talk. I'm very excited to have you on. There's Shohei Ohtani, Giolito, big news going on here. But to kick things off, for the audience, we're recording under somewhat questionable circumstances.
Yeah, a little bit. So I'm in Nashua. If anyone's in the Nashua area, you're hearing this on Friday night, 6 p.m. Nick, KB, myself, we're doing that Monkey Boy documentary. So we're all going to be at Fulman Field. If you know Nashua or New Hampshire, come to the game. You might be part of the documentary. Who knows? And obviously, if you see me there, say hi for sure. And same with Nick and KB. But we're really excited. The Monkey Boy stuff is really fun. And this is like the big Monkey Boy return game. So that's going to be in Nashua, 6 p.m. Friday night. So stop by, say hi for sure. But like Carl said, I am taping this from a hotel in Nashua. There is thunderstorms going on around me. Just 5 minutes ago, I lost my internet. So I apologize if the quality is bad, visually, audibly, my intellect, anything. I apologize in advance.
But your spirit is uncompromised, and there's no thunderstorm. Now, I will say this, too. A New Hampshire thunderstorm hits a little bit different. It just sounds like it hits a little bit different in the Northeast. Am I wrong about this?
I say the ones in Florida are more severe, but I'll say it's humid as right now. Yeah. If it does go, it's going to be a biggie.
Well, I've enjoyed working with you if you don't get through this night. So
I think it's a good, some would say too long of a life. So, so that's fine. If it's my time, it's my time.
Who's Monkey Boy again? Could you just introduce Monkey Boy for?
Yeah, Monkey Boy was a mascot for the Pride, very popular. He was one of the most famous people in New Hampshire, just a mascot of this baseball team. And he got tackled in 2011. He also hurt himself. His knee went bad in 2003. I filled in as Monkey Boy for a summer. I was terrible at it. And this is Monkey Boy's big return to Nashua. The city missed him dearly. We came up here about 6 weeks ago, Nick, KB, and myself. People are just dying for Monkey Boy to come back. So this is a big night for the city tomorrow. So and Chris is a friend of mine. I'm really excited. He's here. He's ready to go. He's amped. It's going to be awesome.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
To you and the community.
Well, yes. So I can't wait to see Monkey Boy again either. It's gonna be a great night, and I'm excited to go out there and hopefully not stale as bad as it did as Monkey Boy the first time.
Impacting the baseball community positively. It's that time of the year. Thank you very much. The trade deadline is next Tuesday at 6 p.m. Eastern time. We did a preview on Wednesday with Castellani. We went through just different categories of teams. Teams that absolutely will sell, teams that absolutely will buy, teams that got questionable decisions on their hands. And the one big takeaway is that teams slightly above 500 and at 500 have the hardest decisions to make. And we had talked a couple examples like who knows what the Mariners or the Angels are going to do. And as soon as we get done, it's announced that Angels, not only are they not trading Shohei, they're going to go out, they're going to get Giolito and Ronaldo Lopez, two players I know a ton about. I'm interested in your obvious reaction to Shohei not getting moved, and then when this news gets announced that the trade is.
I have a theory on trade deadline, I think. And I've been thinking about this a lot the last couple weeks. If you need to think about whether you're a buyer or a seller, you should never sell. That doesn't mean you have to buy, but you should never buy, but you might be okay to sell. So for instance, if you're in a situation with the Angels where you're kind of treading out water, you beyond Ohtani, the last thing you should be doing is trading with your number one prospect for two rental players, one of them being a reliever. This trade is insane. It's stupid on about 9,000 levels. I tweeted about it last night. I think the Angels are going to go like 83 and 79. They're going to miss the playoffs for like 5 games, and then Ohtani's going to walk. And you trade away your best prospect in your system. It's insane. So I tweeted out last night. Seems like most people, like Major League Baseball fans, agree with me. Angels fans, I got lit up by Angel fans all night. They are very happy. They want to go all in, and I guess I'm excited for them. But I don't know. Like they're like, you're a Mets fan, bro. Shut up. And it's like, all right, well, the Mets. If we trade away our number one prospect right now for 2 rental players, I would be furious. Like, what are we doing? We're not that good. And especially when you factor the Ohtani thing, you're like, this is insane. The Angels have a bad farm system. This is awful on so many levels.
Yeah. Awful.
What's your take on it?
Well, I would like to just say I think Lucas Giolito is a great number 3 for a rotation that's cooking into October and fuck if the Braves went out or the Orioles or Reds. There's a bunch of teams that had him. I mean, the Angels to go out and get Giolito, and Giolito is a name that's been routinely come up. He's almost like a meme at this point for the 2023 trade deadline of like who's gonna make the Giolito move. The Angels make the Giolito move early. I think it's obviously banana land. I think it's stupid. I think it's a pure pride move from the front office or the ownership. I mean, it's such a bad move that it's got that Jerry Jones sauce on it of like, why is it would have to be somebody who doesn't know their head from their butt cheeks calling the shots for the Angels to sign off on this because it is such a bad move. Now, however, this is the only small, stupid little devil's advocate 1%. I do understand where Angels fans are coming from. Bro, they're as fucking tortured as it gets. And I mean, within the last, since Mike Trout's become the best player since Babe Ruth and Barry Bonds on PEDs, like, we've basically said that the Angels have just wasted every single season for the better part of a decade. So if you're an Angels fan, it's like, all right, we get one last run with the boys. Like, it's almost like sitting out at a blackjack table and like you're just down to like your last stack, and it's time to go to bed, and it's way pep, whatever, and you're just willing to sit there and gut out $15, $5, whatever you're playing hands. And that's how I feel the Angels are right now. It's such a stupid thing. And I don't even know if you and I can react strongly enough, because the strongest reaction should come from sensible Angels fans. And from the sounds of it, do they exist? Are you guys out there?
I know they exist. They're all in my mention saying I'm an idiot for not liking this trade. Like, I don't know what's happening. I'm so here's the other thing too. The other affects Ohtani. I hear this a lot. Well, if we trade Ohtani, he won't come back. And I agree with that. You're right. But if you're Ohtani, do you want to go back to this team that doesn't even have a number? Like, they just traded the only like major prospect they had, right? Like, you just traded away your number one prospect, who's like a 68 overall guy. And I'm not saying this guy is going to be necessarily going to be a star. Edgar Quiro, who is a catcher. He's a young catcher. He's in Double-A right now. He had some power last year in Single-A. I bet he's going to be a nice player. But if you're Ohtani, you're going to want to go to this team and tell what?
Only Ohtani's going to handpick the catcher, right? Wherever he goes next. He's going to say, this motherfucker's catching me.
Why would you go to a team that has no future? So, like, I understand, if we make the playoffs, maybe Shohei will stay.
Dude, they might do ridiculous stuff in the offseason with free agency then. But,
what do you mean?
I mean, if they're willing to do this for maybe the push to Shohei now to stay is see what we're willing to do to support you.
I don't know what the fuck they're doing. Remember last offseason, they were going to sell the team. Now they're not going to sell the team. And now Ohtani's most likely going to walk. I would be shocked if he stayed. Not like stunned, but what do we think? 15, 20% at most? Like, it's not likely he stays. It's more likely he leaves. And now you have nothing. I just don't know what they're doing. And I've been thinking this way about this team for so long, whether it be signing Matt Harvey, whether it be signing even Syndergaard last year, or go through the moves, and it's just one Josh Hamilton, just one bad decision after another with various different GMs. It has to be Moreno, because at some point, like, there's no one else to blame but him. And I give him credit for spending. This puts him over the luxury tax. Like, he's spending money, but he's just doing it all wrong.
I think this is the first time I can recall, and hopefully there's something that jars your memory in this as I bring this up, of this is such a PR over common sense move, because the fans would riot. I mean, they'd probably lose every season ticket. They'd just be gutted. It could be one of those decisions business-wise where they're standing there going, fucking guys, don't give a shit about the farm system. Don't care if this guy comes back. If we trade Shohei Ohtani, we will never, ever recover from that humiliation. We are riding this pony until he dies. If he leaves, we'll take the draft pick. God bless you.
It's only 2 more months of this guy.
They got to run at the playoffs. They have to run at a World Series. That's it. That was the other decision, was trade and be sensible. Dude, they'd go get, if you got 2 top prospects for Lucas Giolito and Ronaldo Lopez, means how desperate they are. I mean, it's not like White Sox are funny. It's not like you're dealing with, no disrespect to that organization, it's not like you're dealing with, Billy Beane in 2001. I think there's some hope here that at least maybe the optimism is like, all right, well, the Angels are not willing to walk away from the greatest talent at the trade deadline and get more young players. They're actually if they didn't do shit, I think it would be way worse. The fact that they announce this and then they go get Giolito and Lopez, there's a little bit of pride. Now, again, hey, purely objective, 10-year look at it, dumbest fucking thing they can do. By far.
I mean, it's just insane. Like, so I think back to like 97, right? 98? Whenever the Mariners traded Randy Johnson. So what did they get back? It was a rental to Houston. And they got back Freddie Garcia, who was a huge player for them, Carlos Guillen, who had a very nice career, and John Alama, who was a swingman. But those three guys were a big reason why they won so many games in 2001. Like, you can, I know it's a long time ago, and I know that not everything's equal, but if they traded Ohtani, I think you could get even more than what the Mariners got from Randy Johnson, 25 years ago. And I just don't know, like, it's so much more than a draft pick. Like, a draft pick is not, that's not enough. You need so much more than that. So the Angels, obviously Ohtani just pitched a one-hitter.
I was just going to say, like, now we are kind of glossing over that he throws a one-hitter after this shit goes down and then hits a bomb in the game 2.
But even so, they're 53-49 and have won 8 of their last 10. But that's a 520 winning percent. Like, that means you're on pace for like 83, 84 wins. Even right now, this very moment we tape this, I'm looking right now, they are 3.5 out of the last wild card spot. They got to jump over the Yankees, who are getting judged back. The Red Sox, who are kind of inconsistent. But you still got to jump over Toronto as well. And Toronto's a much better team on paper, at least, than the Angels. Like, you get Giolito's a nice player. He said a great number 3 guy. Like, what's that staff look like? You got Ohtani, Giolito, like Reed Devers, who can be nice. He's kind of fallen off. Like, I don't. Patrick Sandoval, I guess, is nice. I mean, it's a decent staff. When is Trout coming back? I don't know. I don't know what they're doing over there. It's incredibly frustrating, and it's so sad. Like, Mike Trout seems like a good guy. He's had an unbelievable Hall of Fame career, and it's just and now they've managed to somehow make their system even worse. I thought we were going to go into this month with the Angels being like, all right, their system's a lot better now because they traded Ohtani. They've made it worse.
Yeah. I don't have any disagreements about. I don't have, at the core of your analysis, I'm with you lockstep. I'm trying to sprinkle in just a couple different, here's some different angles. Here's a way to consider it. Maybe this is one thing to think about. I looked it up. Trout's taking baseball activity steps now. I mean, I think Trout will be ready if he needs to be ready. I don't think you need to put him on a minor league rehab assignment. I think if he's off in his corner in his house, being a weirdo, doing his prep work, just being like Trout, keeping his fucking business, just watching video, thinking about his swing, he's a total lunatic. And I mean that positively. I mean that positively about his shit. But, like, he's not a guy you get worried about coming back. Now, the hand injury, the hamate bone, the bottom part of your hand, if you're watching this on YouTube, I'm showing it to you. Subscribe on YouTube. Thank you. The bottom part of the hand, and it's a lot of extension force comes with that. So it'll be interesting to see what modification of Mike Trout comes back. But if he's healthy enough, and say they're not 8 out of 10, say they're 16 out of their last 20, say they're 18 of their last 22. Now we're talking about,
that's different. I mean, but
the games have to go be played. They're in Detroit right now. It's fucking pounding them.
You mentioned the hamate. So typically, that's where, players have hamate bone, hitters have hamate bone injuries. Typically, they have issues with power afterwards, right? Like, that usually affects your power. Now, you might obviously still make the same contact. Ball is not going as far. That's typically what happens when the recovery of hamate bone injuries. So Mike Trout with less power, that's a problem. I mean, they still have kind of Renfroe in that lineup, obviously Ohtani. So there are some guys that can hit the ball. And Mike Trout, even if he's still going to get on base at a 400, 425 clip. So I think great, Mike Trout comes back. But, look at that division even. Like, God, I mean, the Rangers are better than them by a mile. The Astros are better than them by a mile. They're 6.5 back as it is, even after today. And little devil's advocate. All right? Let's do it.
Schedule's brutal, man. They got a brutal schedule coming up. They needed to trade for Giolito. If they got rid of Ohtani, they'd lose every game. I mean, this is such a bad devil's advocate. The schedule's a gauntlet, though. They're in Toronto, in Atlanta, home for 4 against Seattle, who's pitched very well, home for 3 against San Francisco, then on the road in Houston, on the road in Texas, then at home against Tampa, then at home against Cincinnati. Every single team I just listed is has fan base expectations for October, except maybe the Mariners for a little bit sprinkled, but like I said, they've been hot. My point is, the schedule for the Angels is absolutely as hard as I think I could read off a fucking schedule for the next 3 3.5 weeks. And I would imagine they're just hanging on for hope. Like that's it. That's all I can make of this. That's
Carl,
it.
Listen to how you just described the Mariners, right? Which I think is a very fair thing. You're like, yeah, they're hanging on. They're there. They're one game worse than the Angels. It's the same fucking team. And one breath, it's like, all right, that team is barely hanging on. But, they've been better of late. It's the same thing. The Angels are barely hanging on, and they just trade away their best prospect from a barren farm system for a reliever who kind of stinks and a starting pitcher who's a decent number 3, and both are gone in 2 months. What the fuck are they doing?
Okay, can we just be fair for a second, though, that, like, I don't want to completely shit on the Angels for keeping Shohei Ohtani. Like, I can't. I don't know, man.
I do.
Like, I think it's a stupid move 10 years from now. I think you're going to be like, what the fuck? Why did we do that? But in this moment, if you were on the ground floor in Anaheim or wherever the fuck they're playing those games, whatever they're calling that. No, like, sincerely, if you were an Anaheim guy, whatever, again, I can't even say that serious with a straight face. If you were
they're Angels fans.
I know. I'm not disparaging that community as much as it sounds like. I mean it sincerely. I'm just giggling.
Right.
Like I'm hanging out in Anaheim. I'm talking to an Angels fan. I can't believe this. Like, they just want a shot. They just want a shot. They're hot. Ohtani's the best player of all time. You can't trade Ohtani. I'm just saying, like, that's the conversation, right? We have to fucking trade Shohei. We're getting him some help. We never got him help. He's carrying this team. This is a magical run. He did it for Japan. He's doing it for us. Like, this is what an Angels fan would think. Now, if you're in the front office and you don't trade Shohei Ohtani and you get a draft pick for him, I mean, you should never work in baseball again.
No. And the thing about this is they fucked up 3 times now. That's what's so infuriating to me. They should have traded him last deadline. They didn't. They should have traded him the offseason. They didn't. And they had another chance here, and they fucked it up again. Unbelievable. Like, it's such bad base. The front office needs to be better than the fans. So the fans, right, we're all emotion-based, right? Like, oh, how can you trade this guy? I have his jersey. I love my kids love him. I understand all that. I really do. But you have to make these moves. It's not fun. Look at the Celtics. And I know the Celtics haven't won a title in a while, but they did go to the NBA Finals last year. And they made the trade to trade Paul Pierce and Kevin Garnett. Those guys are beloved in Boston. But what they got back was the draft picks that helped get Tatum and Brett. Like, that's what you need. You need to keep looking at the future. It's your job in the front office. It's not easy to move guys like that. And believe me, as much as Angel fans love Ohtani, Celtics fans, I'm a Celtics fan, we love Paul Pierce. He won a title for us. We drafted him. I get it. But you have to disconnect that a little bit as a fan, and especially as front office.
Here's my last objective, serious consideration for how the Angels did this. They lined it up. They looked at the payroll next year. They look at their expenses. They already had that TV deal, whatever the fuck that thing is. But I'm saying it's not like that thing's coming. I remember that was fresh maybe like 4 or 5 years ago. What if there was a cash crunch? And they were saying, like, if we trade Shohei, we will lose so much of our fan base. We'll lose so much of our season tickets, so much game revenue. Like, that could be an issue when you have $36 billion owed to Anthony Rendon. Like, there is a part of me that feels like this could be an operational thing where they, like, simply wouldn't have, like, the projection of giving away Shohei Ohtani, the negative reaction and the consequences from the fan base, and then, like, the business outlook of, like, do we have to pay a payroll of $200 million next year? We're projected to win 66 games.
I don't buy that argument because the things you're talking about wouldn't be affected because he's leaving no matter what. So season tickets are already bought. Like, those things are already, people have already bought tickets for the season. Like, those things, that's already done. When I'm talking next year, he's leaving anyway. Like, let's say he leaves in December. Then you're going to pay that piper eventually, whether it be December or now.
I think, no, it's way worse if you trade him. No way. If he leaves in free agency and the Dodgers or the Yankees pay him $600-700 million or something, the Angels can at least walk away and say, hey, we offered him $550. We did this and this. We did our best. Angels fans would be pissed. They trade him. Angels fans will walk away a little bit. They'll start going into Dodger Stadium. That's what I think.
Then they're foolish. Then they're fools.
Now, you know what? I'm sorry. Because as I'm pitching this, I would just want to say, I just love throwing different sides of the argument to you because, again, it's as a front office, I want to emphasize just how insane it is that you would not trade Shohei Ohtani. And I've been saying that for 2 weeks now. I think we've been hammering this. You got to go trade this guy. You would get a historic trade. You could rebuild your entire organization. Like, you could put 4 fucking years into the farm system if you traded this guy, and they're going to make a sincere playoff push. And 100%, they are miles behind the Astros and miles behind the Rangers. They could be hot for the next 20 games. I'd still say, like, it wouldn't fucking matter if you wanted to put the two on paper against each other. That's the objective.
Right, Carl. I think that's what the front office is going to do. I think this is all a scam. I think what they're going to do is he walks to free agent. Well, they'll give him an offer. They know he wants to leave anyway. I'm sure he leaves, and they go, "Oh, we tried our best. You can't get mad at us. Sorry, guys." It's like, no, we can get mad at you because you just fucked our organization over. You had the best player baseball history. Like, we're starting to have those conversations, and you let him just leave, and you got nothing back. I mean, at least Harry Frazee got fucking $100,000 back from Babe Ruth. You're letting him walk for a fucking draft pick. It's just madness. It's so sad. I mean it sincerely. I really feel bad for Angels fans. Like, this history will not be kind on this. You had 2 of the greatest players in this generation, and you couldn't even win a playoff game. You went to 1 playoff appearance, and you got swept. That's wild. And guess what? I hate to break it to you guys. Angels aren't making the playoffs this year either. Lucas Giolito is not Randy Johnson. Lucas Giolito is a fine starter, but he's no different than with Reed Detmers, Patrick Sandoval. Giolito's not that much better than those guys. Like, God.
Has anybody compared Giolito to Randy Johnson? I feel like you're the first person who just done that.
No, I'm just like, if you're getting those, like, let's say you made a trade for like one, so like some of these guys are like these giant stars that somehow can put you over the top, then you can kind of be like, well, I disagree, but you can kind of understand. Your game back isn't that great. You gave away your best prospect, and you're going to let the superstar walk out the door, and it's just like, I'm apoplectic. Yep. I really thought the Angels were going to trade Ohtani. I really believed it. Like, I'm like, they have to. Like, the All-Star break, I'm like, they have to. I know they won 8 out of 10 since the break. I tell you, that is the most, no team will ever wish they didn't win 8 out of 10 more than the Angels in 2023. That is the worst 8 wins Joe have. You just ruined your fucking franchise for a while. Hopefully those 8 wins were awesome. I did.
This has just been so enjoyable for me, to be honestly, to commiserate with. Like, you're so passionate about this. I hope people like understand how special this is and respect that, because it's profoundly bad in the long-term interest of the game. Like, why would you not do a good shuffle here, guys? There's teams out there that would benefit off him, that make a great run, be a great story, national boom. Ohtani gets that exposure, that experience. Angels get to reload, retool. Maybe they get Rendon off get him away. And fuck. But another argument would be their top prospects rarely pan out, have only panned out. But it's like the curse of Mike Trout since he came up. Nobody else has been fucked. They had to go get Ohtani.
They just DFA'd a guy today, Jared Walsh, to make room for Giolito. And I mean, Jared Walsh is a guy we heard a ton about. He had one very good year. But no, I guess that, but that's the argument. If my argument is like, I trade prospects because they don't work out, that's not an argument. That's a sign your front office is fucking out to lunch. That's not an argument. That's a sign you need to fire people. Like, that's awful. That's not it.
I declared war on Perry Minasian, or however you pronounce his name, when he fired Joe Madden after a 12-13 game win.
Yes.
I'm at war with the Angels front office. I've never liked the Angels. I
don't know how anyone can. That's why I'm shocked when at some of the response some Angels fans had. I was like, really? You guys are still defending this front office? I thought it would be like how the Mets fans felt about Wilpon. I know it's a different owner, GM, but like how it was, at some point you just became so frustrated, just like, this is dumb. Like, these people are just dumb.
But
I thought it would be like that.
Does it make the Angels the most interesting team for the next at least, month?
Yeah, they're up there. I mean, I guess if we want to say give them credit, it's interesting. Like, you're right. They put all their chips on the table. Let's see what happens. Let's go. But, we say that, in a year and a half now, though, they're going to be, 68, 94, whatever. Maybe, or you know what? They're probably aren't even that smart. They're going to go like 73 and 89, not get a top 10 pick, and like still be this weird purgatory they've been in for the last 12 years. The existence of like, it's sad, Angels, honestly, they won the World Series in 2002. They were very good that decade. They I know they never went back to the World Series, but they were a very competitive team for the rest of that first decade of the century. And then they get Mike Trout, and then poor Mike Trout's luck, and then that's when the whole organization kind of just, I don't know, loses their minds. Carl, I want to bring this up. Last year, the Nationals traded Juan Soto, or the Padres, obviously. That was a pretty good return. You got Mackenzie Gore, who's a decent starting pitcher at a low cost. C.J. Abrams, who's turned into a nice fielder, especially defensive. Like, he's turned into a decent player. Like, there's some pieces there. They went out and got Keibert Ruiz in a deal a couple years ago. That was the Scherzer deal. So like, that's how you do it. And like, trading Juan Soto must not have been easy for them. This 24-year-old guy that just won a World Series for us, but I'll give the Nationals credit. It's not easy to make that move, but they did, and it was for the betterment of their franchise.
One thing interesting, though, is they were on record around that time, though, of offering him the, $450 million, $400 million. And that was kind of a bigger public story. But I don't remember the Angels doing that. That would be a better part of the narrative if we knew that there was some kind of extension talks going on behind the scenes. Maybe that would make a little sense of it.
I don't know if they were, maybe the agent said, hey, listen, like, don't even bother. Like, we're gonna see how the free agent market. I don't know what's happening behind the scenes, but you're right. We never heard of them making any sort of monster offer to Ohtani. And you think that would have happened by it? You think that would have happened in spring training, honestly? Yeah. Like, right? Like, wouldn't you think that they would have come to the table? Maybe I
think it would be the biggest story all year. I think it would be something that we'd be consistently wanting to get updates on, unless one side came out and said, we're not going to talk about it until the end of the season, which I don't. Again, if I'm fucking way off on this, I'm sorry. I'm not familiar with it, and I feel like that would be a huge.
I didn't hear anything. Yeah. What was your reaction when you saw it? I was shocked when I saw this trade happen last night. I was like, my eyes bugged out of my head. I couldn't believe what I was seeing.
Honestly, I thought Lucas Giolito was going to go on a nice little run, because I saw Angels, like, oh, thank you. Like, if you could pick one play, be Angels or Dodgers for him. He's from there. He's from Hollywood Hills and all that stuff. And again, we talked about this before. Guy's going through a divorce. He's back with family, high school friends and stuff. Like, he'll be in a good situation and environment. I'll guarantee you Lucas Giolito is going to learn a new pitch from Shohei Ohtani. He's already learned a new pitch from him. He's a very cerebral, smart motherfucker. Big ass hands. So I guarantee you, like, he is going to pick something up from Shohei. And there's more to the Angels roster and all that bullshit on paper that I think lines up very well with Giolito. So that was the natural reaction. The other thing too, Ronaldo Lopez has stunk for a long time. I surprised he's still getting innings. And then it sent me down a rabbit hole on MLB trade rumors. I saw Ryan, like, it was like, all right, well, if you're not going to trade Shohei, good, you did this. If you're not, it's like the deal, it's like if you're not going to trade Shohei and you're going to say we're going to keep this guy, then you're just you are just burning down the bridge. And so this is like part of it. This is like, we're not just going to burn it down. We're going to use as much explosives as we can. Yeah. We're going to blow the city apart.
So, I mean, like, I guess I've been honestly trying to figure out any way this makes any, let's say they win a World Series this year. Honestly, I don't think they'll make the playoffs. If they do, then it's worth it. Then I think you get a World Series, then it's worth it. But I mean, World Series or bust when you're 53-49, it seems insane.
What if Shohei was like, I'll stay if you guys go get some pieces right now?
So basically, if you're Shohei, you're like, I'll stay for 10 years if you deplete your farm system more, so I have a good 2 months. I don't think so. Doesn't make any sense. The only way this makes sense as an Angels fan is if you have like 6 months to live. If you are like one of these dying, like a very old man, or you're someone who's very sick, or and you're like, oh well, this is my last run anyway. They're like, all right, great. I can see you want to make that deal. If you have any more than if you have any sort of life expectancy more than a year, then you should be furious. This is a big trade in hospitals. They're a big fan of this trade in hospitals in that area. Everyone else should be furious.
You morbid, sick fuck.
Am I wrong?
No. Yo, great grandpa is great.
Yeah,
grandpa. He's
Let's go.
kid.
Let's get that second ring, baby.
About damn time.
Yeah, I don't know. And there's another prospect in the trade as well, Kai Bush. He's not nearly as prominent of a prospect as the catcher, Chiaro is. But
Sure.
yeah, I mean, I guess I don't know. I'm really at a loss.
You're speechless.
One of the more shocking trades I've seen in a while, I guess.
The fact that you can't offer up like valid, sincere devil's advocate other side of the coin here is a testament to how bad of the decision is. I'm trying. I'm lobbing softballs. I've been throwing stuff at you for 30 minutes here on it. It's probably one of the biggest. I mean, I would imagine going into the trade deadline, the biggest story is going to be the Angels don't move Shohei. Unless something crazy happens with the Mets or something.
Like let's see. So now that Shohei is off the table, so who is the biggest guy? Like, I guess, Juan Soto once again, I guess would be the bigger name.
They're not trading him for the same reason the Padres aren't, or for the same reason the Angels aren't moving Shohei.
So wait,
no one knows.
Are we gonna end up kind of having like kind of a bust? Like, is the biggest name traded deadline thing gonna be like Eduardo Rodriguez? Are we looking at that kind of trade deadline, or are we gonna get some names that surprise both of us, or at least me?
Do you think Steve Cohen would ask Scherzer straight up, like, do you want to get traded? Do you want? Because if he did that, then I could see Verlander or Scherzer on the move. Like if he has,
I keep saying it. So Verlander is
they have him for next year, and they have him for next year too. You're right. And the $43 million to Steve Cohen isn't a lot.
No, but it's 43 times whatever's left this year times 2 on top of that, because Verlander's signed for 2 more years after this one. There's a player option, but obviously he's got to take it. So yeah, I mean it's literally $100 million.
So they're off. Scherzer would get moved, but not Verlander. I mean, if the White Sox moved Giolito, and who could say, like, maybe Dylan Cease for a big package? They're listening to everybody.
I don't know if you trust Bob Nightingale. He said that Lance Lynn will be moved, but I guess they're going to keep Cease.
Who's it? Like, Lance Lynn's got a 6.7 ERA and can't get his fucking brother out. Like, what are we talking about here, Lance Lynn? Lance Lynn's trade list, by the way, no trade list. I don't know if you saw. It's awesome. No West Coast time zones. Will not go back to St. Louis. That was the 6th team. So all 5 West Coast time zones. And I know the Diamondbacks people. So like all the California teams, Seattle off the table. And then no St. Louis Cardinals because he played there. He will not go to New York. He will not go to Toronto. And I think that's because I don't know. I would just guess like Lance Lynn is not a big. Whatever. He doesn't want to go to Toronto.
Remember
do the
Mark
math
Burley?
on that. And then, but Tampa Rays. The Tampa Rays were his last one. I'm like, why would he not go to Tampa?
Mark Burley had a pit bull that he loved dearly. And when he went to the Marlins, he got a handshake agreement. Well, we may trade you one day, but it will never be to Toronto. He says, great. You got to trade Toronto. I guess you can't have pit bulls in Toronto or whatever. And he was furious. I'm a dog guy. Like, that was such a bullshit move with the Marlins. So maybe he has a pit bull or something. I don't know where Lance Lynn has for a dog.
That's a good take, and maybe Lance Lynn just knows that, like, hey, not doing that, not dealing with that, not getting a Toronto identification card, not renting an apartment in.
Got to go through customs after every road trip.
No, thank you.
Doesn't want to deal with that. I get all that. I don't know. I'm just like looking through the teams here that aren't very good. The Royals they already traded Chapman. I really don't know what else, that's major that they would trade that would really excite anybody. The White Sox, we already mentioned them. The A's don't have anybody that's really going to be that exciting at all. The Rockies, same here. The Padres are 49 and 54. They're 10 games out of the division. I don't think they're going to sell. Maybe Blake Snell.
I think Blake Snell's on the table for sure. I think that could be in a similar situation where the Brewers traded with the Padres last year, and they had the Hader trade, and the Brewers said, we're not putting up a white flag on the season. We're still going after the playoffs. Like, we're just kind of thinking this is good for the organization. There could be something there at the Padres where they move Blake Snell and are still able to sell. I know he's their only fucking decent pitcher right now. I know what I'm saying is insane. But I can see them moving Blake Snell and still telling the fans, like, no, we didn't move Soto. Like, we're still trying to get after the playoffs. Like,
right, or we're still focused on winning next year because they have Soto, signed for next year.
Yeah.
So the Pirates don't have anyone that's really that excited they would move, in theory. The Cardinals have pieces.
Bednar.
Oh, all right. I mean, sure.
He's probably the best closer available, I would say.
That's fair. The Cardinals is the team that's the most interesting to me.
Arenado and Goldschmidt have been rumored, right?
Yeah, and the GM even said, hey, we're going to trade some guys. Obviously, Montgomery, Flaherty, and Dylan Carlson are all free agents. They're, I'm sure, all going to go. But you're right. The two big pieces that are most interesting are Arenado and Goldschmidt. Goldschmidt only a year on the deal after this year. So, I mean, I imagine you trade him. I guess that would be the biggest, most exciting guys on the market, right?
I think the Cardinals should absolutely move him, and they're historically do a great job of getting hauls. That organization's always done a good job at the trade deadline, I feel like.
What do the Cubs do? They're 50-51. They've won their last 5. They're 6 out of the division.
So I feel like Jed is gonna make a small move. I don't think he's gonna trade Stroman because he's not gonna get a ton for Stroman, so he'd rather just hang on to Stroman. And Stroman's here
had
for
a horrible month.
Yeah, and he's out. Well, that's ever since it got announced that they were thinking about trading him, and he wanted to stay. And that can be passed over. And I think the Cubs look at Stroman and say, all right, we already have him for next year. It's hard enough to find decent starting pitching. What does he cost? I think it's $24 million, $23 million. I think the Cubs would be willing to hang on to him. I think they would trade Bellinger. I don't think there's a long-term play with Cody Bellinger. You're not going to get a draft pick. You're not going to keep him because you got Pete Crow Armstrong coming up. There's no long-term player with Cody Bellinger. Scott Boras has taken him to the fucking bank, folks. So what you have to do with Cody Bellinger is obviously move him. However, I don't think trading Cody Bellinger necessarily means the Cubs over the next 60 days can't play competitive baseball like they have for the last 2 weeks. Like, their run differential's high enough here where, like, it's a quality enough team. Now, Bellinger has a 320 average, a 920 OPS, 15 home runs. He's been very good. He's an essential part of the lineup. But Ian Happ's not been that great, and Seiya Suzuki hasn't put up any power numbers this year. So it's not to say that those guys suck this year, but, like, I'm willing to bet that over the next however many 10, 12 weeks of the season that are left, you can get production from places without Bellinger. So I think that's a sensible trade. So the Cubs they live in this vague territory where, like, I just ultimately, though, as a Cubs fan, I do like our front office a lot. I like Jed Hoyer a lot. I like Carter Hawkins a lot. I think they are sensible. They haven't made any gross reactionary moves. Dansby Swanson's looked phenomenal. The fact we're even talking about Marcus Stroman as a strategic, chess piece here is like a smart move there, guys.
Yeah, look at the Cubs, like another team. Like, you guys won a World Series with some of these guys, Rizzo, and you guys traded them, Chris Bryant, and you guys traded them before they were free agents. Yeah, I'm sure it sucked, but you knew that deal had to happen. And look what happened. You traded Javier Baez to my idiotic Mets, who never should have made this move. And we traded away one of our best prospects for 2 months of Javier Baez, who was very good for us. We didn't win the playoffs that year. It was an asinine trade, and it set us back. And I got a lot of.
He played well for you guys, though, and I don't like when Mets. He had a 140 OPS plus for you guys.
He was awesome. He was awesome
effective,
for us. But it didn't matter. So even as good as he was, we still missed the playoffs, and now we lost one of our best prospects from that time. And now he's going to be really good for you guys. And what do we get out of it? Oh wow, I got to see 2 months of a good player. Like, that's man. So when the Angels made this move, I thought about that a lot. I'm like, imagine selling the farm or pieces of your farm or major prospect and you don't even make the playoffs. I'm telling you right now from experience, that is the worst.
Is there any shred of you, though, that can say if Javi Baez had, there are moments Javi Baez won games in that 2016 playoff. Seriously, like, thank God we had Javi. He's on the short list of thank fucking God. Him, Rizzo, obviously KB. Arrieta and Lester, and that entire playoff run were just absolute fucking nails every single series, it felt like. He had a bunch of big moments. If you had those moments as a Mets fan, even after trading him, you wouldn't feel a little something for that guy if you guys went to an NLCS. I know you didn't, but just can you live in a hypothetical world where you did, and can you look at that version of Chris Klemmer and see, is there any happiness or understanding? And like, okay, sometimes you got to risk it for the biscuit.
I think sometimes you do have to risk it, but you have to know when to risk it. So the Mets went 77-85 that year. We had Javier Baez for 47 games, and it did us nothing. And he was very good for us, and it did us nothing. Like, I look back at that trade, and every time I see Pete Crow Armstrong's knee, I have regret.
And that's a great name. It's a great name.
It is a great name. But I have regret every single time I see his name. And it's like, damn, we could have had him. And, and for what? What did we get out of that? And I think Steve Cohen learned a big lesson, because that was his first the first year he had the team now, and he learned a lot. He's like, I never want to make that mistake again. And I think he's become a lot more cautious with some of the moves they make now, because I think he looks back at that as like, that was a huge error of judgment there. Because it was. Like, here's the thing, Angels fans, and I know if you're mad at me, that's fine. Great, I guess. There's no question, if you guys missed the playoffs here, the trade's a mistake. Like, that is, I think everyone will agree with that. And I think there's a really good chance the Angels do miss the playoffs. And if you think Lucas Giolito is going to be your savior, like, I don't know what to tell you. I mean, that's just not who this guy is. He's a guy at a 4.90 ERA last year. He's a guy that is having an okay year, a nice year this year, but he's not even an all-star. Like, he's fine.
I mean,
and I like the picture.
Unless Lucas Giolito and Ronaldo Lopez, either or both, contribute to like a World Series championship, I don't. But it depends on the career the prospect's at, right? Guy comes out next week, blows his knee out. Not saying he will. That's bad juju, but like, obviously, there's a lot to look at in the long run to say whether or not how impactful the trade was. I think in this moment, all you can do is look at the logic. And to be honest with you, the trade is different than keeping Shohei. Trade, the logic checks out based on what they're trying to do. Keep Shohei, chase playoffs, get in there. Then I do kind of like the trade. 67th overall catcher. Hold on a second. If they're going to keep Shohei, then maybe the trade's okay. If Giolito gets hot and he runs and they go, I'm just a little perspective. Nah, little devil's advocate, nothing here.
So you're saying, if let's say they had locked up Shohei in spring training and they had him for 11 more years and they made this trade, like, I don't think it's a good trade. I think it's not as stupid. You're right, Carl. It's not. I wouldn't be as like apoplectic. But when you have a bad farm system and you're on the outside looking in, like I said earlier in the show, if you're questioning whether you're a buyer or a seller, you should never buy. Because you're not good enough to win the World Series anyway, most likely.
I played so much devil's advocate, I might start believing some of this stuff here.
I don't know. I just don't. I'm really just shocked. I'm looking at some of these other teams. The Tigers could trade Eduardo Rodriguez, I guess. I'm just looking at other players that you might see get dealt. And I just wonder if we're kind of heading toward a trade deadline bust a little bit.
I hope the Mariners can move an arm. The Mariners have young arms to move. I hope the Reds trade Jonathan India. That makes sense on paper. But how high is his value now versus the offseason? I think you got to wait for. I think he's way more valuable in a winter than he is at a trade deadline.
I think so too. I think you'll see, was it Caliandro? They got Washington Nationals third baseman is a nice player. I think he'll almost definitely get moved. I mean, that's not me. I mean, I can't count his name. He's not like this giant star, but I mean, I don't know. I don't know. I was hoping for a really exciting trade deadline. I'm starting to get a little anxious that we're not going to get a good one, but maybe I'm wrong. I would never expected the Hader deal last year.
I think there's so many teams that are like, well, if the deal makes sense, at least the Angels here had like the urgency where they're like, fine, fuck it, we'll pull the trigger. And so how many of those teams are left? I don't know. Like, because part of this is being stupid enough to move all the chips in the table at the wrong time. It's like Angels just did that. Okay, fine, whatever. Like, we're gonna keep Shohei, fine, and we'll get rid of our top two prospects with a terrible farm system, anyways. Like, okay, fine. You understand chasing World Series? I think is categorically stupid. However, again, if you are gonna chase World Series, fine. Man.
There's an all-time great player that's won 2 World Series, but both were as a rental. Ricky Henderson.
Oh, wonderful.
Both of his World Series wins were as a rental. So, I mean, those guys can make a difference. I mean, obviously, we saw with, if you want to go way back to the 80s, Doyle Alexander, and went 9-0. Tom Candiotti had a huge year. Obviously, I know Manny, when he went to the Dodgers, was a huge, so they can make a difference. Rick Sutcliffe. I know it wasn't trade deadline, but he won a Cy Young with the Cubs in midseason trades. It can make a difference. But when you have a rough farm system and you said you're on those fringes, I don't see the logic. I think it does make sense for the Yankees maybe to make a big move. It's, Judge is going to come back, and especially with Rodon looking so good his last start, like maybe it makes sense for them to make a big move. Teams like the Phillies, the Orioles, these are teams that have holes that are talented. Maybe I feel the Phillies are on their fringes too, but I just believe more in the Phillies than I do the Angels.
I feel like the Phillies can't really do anything crazy, in my opinion.
What do you mean?
Because they're so, when you have Schwarber and Castellanos on payroll, and you just gave Trey Turner the bag, and Bryce Harper's gonna be around for a long time. You've got these really significant pieces to the organization and the front of the pitching staff with Suarez behind them. Like, there isn't a ton of room on paper to be adding into this roster and lineup. It's kind of like what you have is what you have. Now, if you want to go to the bullpen, you want to get bullpen help, that sounds great. If you want to get a speedster or a standout tool person, but I just don't know the Phillies, like, you have what you have, and you just have to hope that it comes together, because the idea of like adding some outside piece that's going to go into that clubhouse and like, oh, now the Phillies are great. Like, bro, no, that's not how that club's going to work at all. What you're going to have to do is find some bullpen guy, like a funky slider, funky delivery, or, pick some stuff off the heap and hopefully get hot with that run. But you just look at that. That's how I feel when I look at the clubhouse and I consider like the makeup of the guys that are in that room. Like, I don't know. What are you going to do that's going to make that? Was Bryce Harper going to play better now? Come on, what are they talking about? It's the fucking Phillies. Like, if they're going to be awesome, they're going to be awesome, and that's just how they work.
Yeah, I agree with that. So we're back on Monday to do the count for our ranking, and then Tuesday we're going to do a stream of some length during the deadline. Correct?
Yes,
that's the plan.
Yes,
I'm really excited for that. I think breaking down those trades in real time is going to be a lot of fun, and I think that'll be a really interesting. It could be a really interesting 2 hours, or it could be just a bust where, next thing you know, maybe that there's no trades happening, and me and you were talking about the 1976 Yankees or something bizarre. Like, I don't know which way this is going to go here. I guess this is, I'll say this. I didn't expect this trade. So maybe we have a few more unexpected trades down the pike.
Yeah, horrible in the long term for the Angels to not move Shohei. That's the first thing, horrible. But if you are going to go after this, they're fucking going after it, man. So, yeah, by the time we talk on Monday, there's going to be a lot more. Thanks, guys, for tuning in. It's Friday. It's the Barstool Baseball Show. And go, if you are in the northeastern part of the United States and you can reasonably access Nashua,
New Hampshire. It's right on the very bottom of New Hampshire. And it's at Holman Stadium, a 6 p.m. start. Me, Nick, KB, you'll all be there. And then Monkey Boy, I promise you, he's awesome. He's a super entertaining mascot. It's a lot of fun. So college wouldn't that league. So you have these kids trying to hopefully get drafted. It's a beautiful park. It's Walter Olson, the Dodgers manager, made his debut there. Don Newcomb. If you're a fan of old-time baseball, this is an old-time park. Roy Campanella, his first minor league game was in Nashville.
Let's fucking go. I'm a big Roy Campanella guy. Go read up on him. This is Barstool Baseball.
MVPs.
Did he really? Because
Don Newcomb
did a 5-year span, or did he win back-to-back?
Yeah, something like that.
55.
He got a late start, obviously, because the Negro Leagues, and he was in a horrible car accident. It was paralyzed for the end of his life, but it ruined the end of his career. But a fascinating man, a fascinating career. But he got to start in Nashua. Started like Roy Campanella, Walt Alston. He managed those Sidney Koufax Dodgers teams. And it's just like I said, it's a cool historic park. It's a great night out, and we'd love to see you guys. If you see me, please act.
Okay, guys, go check that out. It's Friday. You got nothing going on in Nashua. Go check that out. Monkey Boy.
It's quiet in New Hampshire, but you come check out Monkey Boy. 6 p.m. start. Let's go.
Perfect. Subscribe on YouTube. We will be back on Monday with the power rankings and trade deadline updates. Until next time, talk to you guys soon.